or good evening, depending where you are. Good afternoon, with apologies for whatever's in my throat. We are back on LinkedIn Live talking about how to get your dream job. This is a series of LinkedIn Live events all week from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And now it's Friday, and here we are again. And I'll be back one more time in this series on LinkedIn Live tomorrow. That's Saturday, the 22nd of October. Can you believe it? Have you decided what you're going to be for Halloween? Why don't you leave that in the comments and tell me what you're going to be for Halloween? Even if you're giving out candy, that's my job. I still got to do something, right? To entertain the kidlets. All right. So we're talking about how to get your dream job. Well, what is your dream job? That's entirely up to you. What's your dream job? What someone else's dream job could vary a lot. But how do you get that job that you want? We've been walking through it in detail all week. We talked about setting your career direction and we talked about branding yourself for the job you want. So important. Not just saying, I can do this and that and the other thing, branding yourself for the job you want. That is critically important in getting the job you want because there's an audience for your resume and your LinkedIn profile. And that audience is recruiters and hiring managers. Not every single hiring manager in the world, but the hiring managers you want to work for who are hiring people for the kind of job you want. So, getting your dream job is a marketing exercise. And like any marketing exercise, it starts by deciding what's the goal? What's the goal? What is a dream job for me at this stage in my life? Might have been a different job, dream job 2 years ago. Maybe it'll be different 2 years in the future, but right now, here's the kind of job I want. And I'm going to brand myself for that kind of job specifically. And I'm going to go after those jobs. And today, this is LinkedIn Live event number 5 in our series of 6 on the topic of getting your dream job. And we're going to share a case study. What's a case study? It's just a story about a person who worked with me and used this approach to get their dream job. Want to hear about it? Looking for comments. Looking for the comments. See, nah, I don't care about that. Get rid of you. Go back to you. So yeah, that is our story and our mission today. Still talking about get your dream job. Just trying to figure out why I don't see any comments. What are you going to do? This streaming platform, maybe a little bit weird. Yesterday, someone commented and said, yeah, your comments, Liz, don't show up on the stream, on the feed. That's unfortunate. What a great way for me to communicate with you and you to communicate with me is in the comments or chat, but it wasn't really working. And indeed, again, today, I'm not seeing your comments. So that stinks. What are we going to do? Let's see. Let's see what we got here. Read only. This is our streaming app or third party, Restream. We might have to be talking to their tech support. What do you think? YouTube? Most of the folks that are watching us are on LinkedIn, probably more so than YouTube. So I might have to restart the stream in order to make the chat work. Oh, we got a chat. We got a comment after 4 minutes. All right. Welcome, Kunal. Okay. So getting your dream job. We're going to tell a case study, a story today about someone who used this methodology and they had never heard of it. And that's so fine because most people have never heard of this kind of methodology for getting a job, right? Because I invented it. And I've been talking about this process that I call the side door method for a long time. But then again, there are a lot of people in the world. We're up to 8 billion people in the world, and that's a lot of people. Thank you so much, Greta, for the kind wishes about my physical state, my little illness here. I'm getting better. day by day. 8 billion people in the world. And so it takes a while for any new idea to spread, right? It takes a while for new ideas to get out there. And although I've been talking about this idea of job hunting differently, using a new method, highly effective, but different from the traditional way we called spray and pray, when we spray out resumes and applications and then go home and pray that somebody reaches out to me. That's so frustrating. That's not a good use of your time. And it's not a good use of your brand because it's not compelling. So we're doing a very different thing now. We're using a marketing approach. We call the side door method. And this is what this story is about that I'm going to share with you right now. Some years ago, not that long ago, maybe 6 years ago, I heard from a fella, we will call him Rick. Rick heard about me and our approach because of a friend of his who did one of our courses and got a great job. And Rick really asked his friend a lot of questions. How did you get that job? How did you find out how to job hunt like this? I need to know because I myself am having a huge problem on my job search. This is Rick talking. He said to his friend, I have been job hunting for a year and 2 months, 14 months, and I can't get a good job. He was working in a retail store. Now, look, I've worked in retail stores. Maybe you have too. Great experience for folks at different points can be a great thing. But Rick was a senior level financial and operations person. So working at a retail store for him was like a stopgap, but he never expected it to last that long. It had been a year and 2 months when I met him, and he was getting nowhere in his job search. Unfortunately, nowhere because he wasn't getting interviews. And he had 3 interviews in a year and 2 months. Three job interviews, and none of those led to a second interview, which for the kinds of jobs he was applying for would be necessary. Second interview, maybe even a third interview, and then a job offer. But he hadn't, when I met him, he had not had one second interview. So now imagine how that would work on you and your emotions and your self esteem. And Rick, when I met him, thought it was him. He thought he was defective. He thought there was something wrong with him, terribly wrong with him, and he thought maybe he would not work again. He said maybe my age, his age. He was 48. He was 48. Okay. I was older than he was at the time and way more now. I mean, our difference in age obviously hasn't changed, but we're both older now. He was 48 and he thought he was too old and he thought he was broken and defective and there was something wrong with him. And you know what? Rick is not the only person who has ever felt this way as a job seeker. Of course, most people, when they have any kind of difficulty on the job search trail, they say there's something wrong with me. And when I meet job candidates, job seekers, the first thing they typically tell me is their defect. Well, Liz, I don't have an MBA. You don't have an MBA? I don't have an MBA. A lot of people don't have an MBA. MBA being a Master of Business Administration, a graduate degree in business. A lot of people don't have an MBA. It's totally fine, right? I don't have tons of degrees. I don't have most degrees, right? We are trained that if we are not succeeding in our career to the degree that we would like, it's us. There's something wrong with us. And if we have trouble during our job search, we often believe it's us. We're defective. There's something wrong with us. People write dense 3-page resumes with hundreds of words of text, and they say to me, I didn't get an interview. I wonder if the employer didn't like that thing that I said in my resume on page 3. And I say, they never saw it. They didn't make it to page 3. We think people don't like things about us in our resume or our LinkedIn profile. They're not looking that deeply. This is glance, 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 and on to the next. We are not defective. Rick was not defective. Even at his lowest point, at his darkest moment, he is not defective. There is nothing wrong with him. There is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with anybody who's out here looking for a job. The truth is that the process for hiring people is not good. Can we be honest about that? I'm an HR person. That's my background. The process isn't good. Recruiting is broken, right? It's We're allowed to say that. Things can get better, but they only get better when we talk about it. And we haven't been talking a lot about the fact that recruiting doesn't work. It's broken. I mean, it's not a good process. We know that. How could it be a good process to take a person, vibrant, experienced, complex, funny, smart, creative, and boil them down to keywords and say, well, these keywords will tell me whether this person can do this job? What When did you ever decide whether someone could do something by looking at keywords, especially words, because anybody can write keywords? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I read yesterday an article shared on LinkedIn that CEOs say they want people with emotional intelligence, and leaving aside the whole question of whether CEOs are qualified to determine whether someone has emotional intelligence, because they themselves can often be so lacking in it, right? Leaving that aside 100%. Well, then why don't you adjust your hiring process, my darling, so that it looks at a person's interpersonal skills and experiences? Wouldn't that be the first step? Trying to hire people with emotional intelligence? I don't like that term. There's a whole nother podcast or LinkedIn Live to be done about that, but we won't go there today. If you're trying to hire people with interpersonal agility, wouldn't you hire for that? Wouldn't you build that into your hiring process? No, we wait till the last step. We wait till the hiring manager meets the candidate, and then after they've vetted all their technical and operational skills, then we might ask them a question or two to gauge the emotional component and their ability to communicate with others and work well with other people. Okay. Well, you know what? Then I cannot take seriously your assertion that you really hire for emotional intelligence, because, then you have to walk the walk instead of just talking about it when you're interviewed by a member of the media. Okay. But that being said, in general, the recruiting process is busted, hasn't changed since the 30s. When you throw something online, that doesn't make it better. Why on earth would companies ask you to fill out an application and then upload a resume that has all the same information in it? And why would they ask you to tell them what your tasks and duties were at each of your past jobs? My tasks and duties, they were the normal tasks and duties of a person in that job, as suggested by the job title. Why would you ask me that? That means literally anybody who applies for the job that had the same job I had is going to have the same tasks and duties. How are you going to tell us apart? That's so dumb. I'm sorry, but that's so dumb. And I remember being in the meetings when they were writing the code for these applicant tracking systems, and I said it then. I said that makes no sense. Don't ask what were the tasks and duties. Ask these candidates to say, what'd you bring to the job and what'd you leave in your wake? What'd you make different and better while you were there? That would be more fun to talk about, and you'd be able to tell much more easily which people do you want to interview. But no. And here we are, applicant tracking systems and automated recruiting is what, 30 years old now. Is it better? I don't think it's better. Has it gotten better? I don't think it's any better. So this is where Rick was when I met him, and he was disconsolate. He was not happy. He was very discouraged, and beyond the discouragement, he felt bad about himself. He was down on himself, and I hate to see that, because he's a smart, wonderful person just like you, and he didn't feel it. He didn't feel his power at all. And he really felt like he was damaged goods. And that's a criminal. I hate to see people feel like there's something wrong with them just because they're dealing with a broken system. Let's see. I have a PhD, Yasaman, and I want to transit to industry. Okay, so out of academia, I assume, and find it difficult to readjust my CV to be appealing to recruiters and hiring managers without much of scientific background. What a genius comment that you added here, Yasaman. So translation, right? This is absolutely what we're talking about. How do I translate my academic CV, my resume, to appeal to people who don't know that world? It's the same thing when folks are coming out of the military service. They're talking now to civilian managers who don't know anything about the military jargon, just like your civilian or non academic recruiters are not going to know about the kind of science that you did, in an academic setting. You start with them. You have to decide, Yasman, what kind of job you want. And then that becomes the target, and then you back up from there. So let's say I'm a chemist. Let's say you're a PhD chemist, and you want to work for a consumer products company, making sure the chemistry is good in their products and it's sound and it's stable and not harmful and all that stuff. Really great. So you start with them and you zero in on the target. So you pick an industry, you pick a function, you make sure that the job exists, senior scientist, senior chemist for a healthcare company or a consumer products company, and you read the job descriptions in their job ads, of course. And you also go around LinkedIn searching, using the search bar to search for people who have that job. And you read what they say about themselves because a lot of them came from academia, just like you, just like you. You are going to take your cues in terms of how to brand yourself from the people who are doing it already, who successfully branded themselves to get those jobs. Okay? It's going to be an immersion for you. Speaking of chemistry, you're going to really steep yourself in that world and say, if I'm appealing to this world and I'm coming from this other world of academia, how do these folks describe their experience and their skills? Right? Your PhD is still extremely valuable. Your lab experience, everything that you've done, extremely valuable. Your research, your publications, but now you're going to twist it around for a new audience, and the way you're going to be educated about that audience and their needs is by getting into their world on LinkedIn, which is a great resource for that very objective. Okay, so here's Rick, back to our story. Rick feeling really down. Imagine 12 months plus another 2 months with no progress in the job search, working at this retail store and thinking, it's got to be me. Rick, it's not you. It's not you. You're absolutely great. But you know what? It's like Rick's greatness was here in him coming out for, in his job at the retail store. It was not his life's vision to that job, but he was bringing himself to the job, having great interactions with customers and with his coworkers, but still feeling inside like, is there something wrong with me? Is there something wrong with me? Why can't I get back in my field? Which, by the way, was finance and operations. And so Rick's awesomeness is still there. All of his power is still there, but it's hidden. It's blocked behind a wall from the employers who could have used his help. He had had a career, he had had a great career, but he got laid off. And when he got laid off, he just couldn't get another job. Applied to hundreds and hundreds of jobs. So, what do you think was not working in Rick's case? Leave a comment. What do you think the real problem was? Wasn't Rick? What was really in his way and holding him back? Not at all, Yasman. Thank you so much for that question. What would hold someone back in a case like that? What do you think was holding Rick back? These comments taking years off my life. It was his branding and his approach. It was his methodology and his mindset. He was using the old 1980s methodology that most of us learned. Results oriented professional with the bottom line, a multi skilled operations finance executive. We don't know what that means. And then he lists everything he's ever done and he throws everything in the resume and it's unreadable, way too many words and there's no clarity and he's not coming through. There's no stories, right? None of it is compelling. He knows it's not compelling in his heart of hearts, but he doesn't know how to fix it. He paid a resume writer to write this resume for him. I looked at the resume and I said, this is great because this is your problem right here. just like a plumber pulling a kid's sock with some device out of the tub drain and saying, well, now the water should flow. We got rid of the sock in the tub drain. If you got the mate for it, you can throw them both in the washer right now and you'll be good as gold, right? Now that's your problem. This is your problem, Rick. You got the resume from 1985 up here. It's not working. Employers aren't calling because it looks like every other mid-senior level operations finance. We don't even know what that means. The intersection of operations and finance. What do you want to do, bruh? What do you want to do that exists, a job that exists in the world? It's so simple, but we've been taught that there's all this formal stuff and can't be like regular life. No, job search is just like regular life. It's just like regular life, right? We're going to brand ourselves for an audience who is overwhelmed, hiring managers and recruiters, and you're going to cut through that overload of other people's resumes. God bless them too, but they need to listen to this LinkedIn Live, and you're going to be very clear about what you do and why that's a good thing for you to do and how you've done it before to good effect. Telling these little dragon slaying stories that we spoke about either yesterday or the day before. I got the fog brain, so I don't know. So that's what Rick needed to do. And I said, Rick, this is great. You just got a sock stuck in your tub drain. You got a blockage. You got a 1980s style resume. No reflection on you. This is what we were told to do, to write a resume like that, right? Multi-skilled senior executive with a blah, blah, blah. Well, what does it mean? How could you help me? How could you help me? I'm sitting here as a hiring manager, VP, whatever, in some company. I want to know what you do and how you could help me. That's all. Is that too much to ask? Doesn't help that job ads are written in the same dense, governmental, awful. I mean, that's the next course I need to do. How to write a job. Why would a job ad? Can I just ask in a digression? Undoubtedly one of many today. Can I just ask, why would a job ad ever say the selected candidate will possess blah, 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 blah? Now, why would you write an ad? Ad, the little short word, 2 letters, AD, it's short for advertisement. This is an advertisement about your job opening. You need help. You're paid money to place an ad because you need help. So why would you write an ad and talk right past the audience member? Can you imagine? You're talking right past them because you're saying the selected candidate will possess not your sorry ass, but somebody else. What is that? It makes no sense. That's not how advertising works. You should say, hey, we are doing XYZ over here at our company, Acme Explosives, and we need help right now with getting the marketing and operations pieces tied together for our new e-commerce site. So we're looking to hire an e-commerce manager, e-commerce marketing manager. If that's you with some background in databases and analysis, a little bit of coding experience, but not much, and a good sense of audiences and messaging, wow, we would like to talk to you. Just write us a couple of paragraphs and tell us why you think this would be a good match. Don't take a lot of time with it, but we're just interested in talking to people right now to figure out these e-commerce issues that we're running into. And a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, boom, I'll do that. I'm not going to make you fill out an application with every job you ever held and what were the dates and what does that have to do with my need and your ability to solve my need, and then we get together, zzz, sparks fly, and it's a beautiful thing. So this is the conversation I had with Rick. I said, Rick, good news. We're going to get that sock out of the tub drain so the water can flow. We're going to rebrand you, and I really want to talk to you to help you shift your mindset. There's nothing wrong with you, and you're going to let go of this idea that you are defective or damaged goods, because that could not be further from the truth. We all get down on ourselves at times. I get down on myself so bad, right? We all do. But you're awesome, man. You're fantastic. He said, "How am I going to explain this 1 year working in a retail store?" I said, "You're not. The right person is going to get who you are and what you bring. You don't have to apologize. Why should you apologize for stepping off the conveyor belt for a year? You don't have the right. At age 48, you haven't worked hard enough. You haven't accomplished enough. You're going to adopt a new frame, a mental frame, emotional in yourself, right? Maybe you won the lottery. Maybe you did so well at your last company, you had money. Or maybe you have a side thing, whatever. It's none of their business. The real issue is, how do you feel about this year?" And he said, "Well, I want to get a job, full-time job in industry. I want to leave the retail store, although I love my coworkers. They're awesome, and my customers, but I still want to, it's time to get back to my career. But this year has been, apart from stressful, it has been a great learning experience. I haven't been talking to people behind a cash register ever in my life. And now I'm 48. I'm doing this, and I really have learned a lot about the world and about myself. I've hung out so much more with my wife and our kids, and that part has been amazing. I'm actually kind of bittersweet about going back to work, and I won't be able to see the kids when they come home from school. And but I'm ready. But there's pros and cons, and I want to, sort of really feel all those feelings about what I've learned and the path that I'm on and where the universe has sent me to get more learning. And I said, "Okay, so you carry that energy into an interview." "Well, so Rick, looks like you haven't worked for a year. What's the story there?" And you say, I never had taken in my life, I had never taken a break. I had never taken a break. I started working full time when I was 22, and 48 is what is that? I can't do math. 26 years later, and I had never had more time off than 2 weeks at a time, even when my kids were born. And so to have this time to reconnect with myself, with my views, my beliefs, my faith, whatever, my family, to look at what I want, to recharge, to refocus. It has been an incredible gift, right? Your energy field at that point is big in that interview room, whether it's face to face or whether it's online. And who's going to say, "Really? Well, how do you explain?" I just did. I don't feel like I have to explain my decision after 26 years to step off the conveyor belt and enjoy my life, in a different way. Are we, is it our obligation in life to just always work? What? I grew up, I'm older than Rick. I grew up with this archetype of the company CEO on the golf course, Mr. Drysdale from the Beverly Hillbillies, and all the other CEOs or presidents, they were on the golf course. The idea being that's the pinnacle. That's what you get when you work really hard, is you get to enjoy life. So then why shouldn't Rick enjoy life? And why shouldn't you also enjoy life? If you have a resume gap, so much of surmounting this ridiculous concern or fear of people with gaps is just you accepting it and embracing it and saying, "It's been amazing. It's been great." And if somebody doesn't like the fact that you took a break, and if they don't understand why someone would have a resume gap in an era of COVID, a worldwide pandemic that has killed millions of people horribly, tragically, then they don't deserve you anyway. Go on to the next one. Go on to the next one, because not all of these people deserve you, right? And having another interview or another two or another five is better than going to work for the wrong person who's going to crush your energy. You don't need that. I don't want you in that situation, right? So with Rick, it was mindset and it was also methodology. Rick, your methodology, we're going to shift the whole thing around. Different resume, different way of approaching employers, different message. First thing, though, you got to zero in on what kind of job you want. We talked about everything Rick had done since he was 22 and what he learned. And turned out that the thing he liked most of all was procurement, also known as purchasing, buying stuff for the organizations he worked for. He had all kinds of other experience, But this was the nugget: purchasing. I want to get into purchasing or manage a purchasing function. Cool. Then let's rewrite your resume to focus on that. Not everything you've ever done. That's confusing. You're taking the reader in this direction and that direction. No, purchasing, purchasing, purchasing. Now, not every job that Rick had had in the past was a purchasing job, of course, but we still pitched the focus of each little section of his resume, and his dragon slaying stories were purchasing related or supplier relations, right? Or inventory control, all supply chain stuff, meaning it would be relevant to his next prospective hiring manager, focusing on the audience, the target audience, and their worldview. Their worldview. Remember, I said a couple days ago, we're going to take the hiring manager's perspective, take their perspective. That's what Rick did. The first month I met him, he had no interviews. In a year and 2 months, he had had 3 interviews only, and none of them went anywhere. And the poor guy was very sad and down on himself, which kills me. I'm an age where now I'm maternal towards everyone, even people older than me. That's the only kind of I am maternal. I watch the baseball games. We got the championships, the postseason going on right now, high stakes, and I all I say is, "Oh, he looked like he hurt himself when he slid into second base. The poor thing. I hope his mother's not watching." That's the only way I can watch a baseball game is from the maternal standpoint because it feels like everyone is my kids. But Rick was down on himself, and that was just hurting him physically, emotionally, and certainly in his job search. So it's working, journaling, and talking to get back into, yeah, I have a lot. I have so much that I could do and that I will do for employers. I just have to get back in my right headspace, and then I have to brand myself for the jobs I want. And guess what? As Rick rewrote his resume with my help, the resume itself helped him. It reflected back on him. And he was like, oh, yeah, I did this and I did that. And it was amazing. I remember how it felt. And I remember how excited we all were at my old job when that happened. That was a great triumph. Yes, it was. Not just for the business, but for you. Get back that feeling and that confidence, Rick. That's the number one thing for you to do. And he did. So he went from having 0 interviews in the month I met him to having 3 interviews the next month and then 6 the following month. And when he accepted his new job, he had just turned down 2 other offers. Now imagine not having an interview, not having any job search progress for a year and 2 months, and then turning down 2 job offers. How could he turn down 2 job offers? Because he had his power back. He was like, no, that one, nah. This one, no. It's better, but it's still, He accepted the third one. And that was a couple of years ago, like 5 years ago now, maybe. He's been promoted since then. So he's not in the job that he accepted, but he's completely back. And he says, you tell my story, Liz, far and wide. You tell it to everyone because I want to help people that are where I was, down, depleted, discouraged, feeling like it's them. It's not them. I'm saying, Rick, I hear you. It is not you. You're dealing with some broken systems, and that tends to reflect back on us to say, oh, maybe it's me. It's not you. You know what I mean? I'm doing a series of 6, what are they called? Videos. I already did it. I already recorded it. Thank goodness before the whole COVID thing hit. And you can get them. I posted the link. It's in the description of this LinkedIn Live at the top. Should be there. And if not, drop a note in my LinkedIn inbox or comment on one of my posts, and I will send you that link because I want you to see that video. I'm also about to teach a course, an intensive course working with me, and it's video lessons and examples and live clinics with me. And the course is also called Get Your Dream Job. And I'm teaching this stuff, this curriculum to a group of people who want to learn it, and they want to employ these techniques, the side door method, in their resume and their LinkedIn and their interviewing process, and they want to feel stronger and they want to go and bring this approach and this mindset to their job search and get the job they deserve, right? And that's my goal, is to help people do that. So look out for that. The course will go on sale this weekend. So that's it for me. I'm gonna sign off, and I'm so glad that you were able to make it today. I'll be back tomorrow. That's Saturday, the 22nd of October, also at 10 a.m. Eastern time, talking one more time about how to get your dream job. And I'm excited to see you then. Have a great rest of the day.